What About Vietnam? A podcast with Carrie Newsom. The series where Carrie talks with travellers about their experiences and adventures. Find out more about Vietnam from the people who have actually been there.
What about Vietnam?
Whether it's adventure, exploring the culture and cuisine, shopping, or just soaking up the sun. Let Carrie and her travellers pave the way for a magical holiday in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?
Xin chào and welcome to What About Vietnam. Just as a bit of a heads up for this program, we are devoting the subject to the solo traveller to Vietnam, but in particular in this program we're just going to focus on the female traveller. I guess for personal reasons I know a lot about that female traveller, as I am one myself. And I think from today's guest, you're going to get some greater insights into how the Vietnamese female traveller experiences Vietnam, in addition to my own stories and experiences in Vietnam, all of which I hope set a really positive theme for you to appreciate that Vietnam is a very safe place to travel and there's lots to enjoy there. My guest today is Camellia Dinh. Camellia is rather a rare individual. She's had 10 years of experience working in the hospitality industry for some of the world's most prestigious hotel brands, including the Park Hyatt, Sofitel and the M Gallery collection. She finds herself playing different roles in her life at the moment: a hospitality professional, a business consultant, an educator, a brand ambassador, an event planner, and sometimes an occasional artist. She's proud to represent the new generation of hospitality leaders in Vietnam, and it's her precise knowledge of local culture and a global mindset that really sets her apart. Personally, from knowing her, it's just her beautiful personality and her giving nature that I'm sure is going to endear you to her. She has completed her Executive Master of Business Administration at RMIT University. She's currently the Director of Sales at Fusion Original Saigon Centre. She's Associate Lecturer at RMIT University, Vietnam, and she's also the founder of the Australian Hospitality Alumni Network, Vietnam. She's going to give you some great insights into the history of women in Vietnam, just the roles that they have played and how they've impacted her life. She's going to give you her views on what is available to the female solo traveller in different kinds of experiences that are open to you to when you consider making a trip to Vietnam. And I just think if you've had ever any doubts or you've tried to put a group together or organise family or your partner to do it and you just kind of can't find your way to get to Vietnam unless you come alone, well, I hope this is going to allay any of your fears and you will come and visit Vietnam as a solo traveller and have a wonderful time. Let's welcome Camellia to the program. Hello, Camellia Dinh. Welcome to the What About Vietnam podcast. How are you?
Hi, Carrie. Thank you so much for having me here today. I am very well.
When we got together in Saigon and we kind of talked through some ideas about what to talk about, I really liked the fact that we could talk about solo women and the empowerment of travelling Vietnam, because it's something you and I both do.
Yes.
I do it for some business and some leisure, and I think you do it the same.
Well, Carrie, I think, I'm not sure about what it is for you in your own culture, right? Here in Vietnam, solo traveler, it's not something uncommon from what I see, but for the majority of time, even with my friends or the community that I know, most of the time people would prefer to travel with their partner or travel in group with friends because it's always more fun to have somebody to share things and experience with, right? But I don't know, maybe I am just one of those who would like also to explore my own way of enjoying things. I started my I will actually say that I'm not a solo travel professional or in any way, but I started to be a solo traveler since I was 13. So since I was a teenager. I think previous to that as well, because for me, I've been growing up far away from my parents. So I have a lot of opportunity to figure things by myself and trying to find ways by myself. As I was growing up, and as we keep getting busier as well, I find it extremely difficult trying to arrange a trip with someone else. When even with my best friend, they have different study schedule, work schedule, and we're just trying to find a date we can go together, and it's just getting hard. And that was the moment that I think, forget it. Why don't we just go and travel and explore the world by ourselves? Because if we keep waiting, I don't know how long I will have to wait. And sometimes with preference, I just want to travel during the quiet time when people go to work. I don't travel, so I have all the scenery by myself. Even the hotel I'm staying with a bit quieter, so I can actually enjoy the all the service and the landscape in front of me, etc. And I do prefer it that way. So I thought, okay, maybe I just give it a try and then I do it and see how it goes. But the more I start traveling back on my own, the more I seem to enjoy it even more. But don't get me wrong, okay? If I have chance to travel with friends, family, partner, I'm still happy to do so.
And, I concur. I'm exactly the same. I found myself finding it limiting because my friends were busy with their families or their jobs, etc. I had a little bit more flexibility in time. So, I just kind of started doing some travel on my own. But I found it quite liberating. I know that's a strange word, but because I found it easy to do in Vietnam, and I'm speaking to all women who are listening to this travel podcast and are thinking, oh, gosh, I don't know whether I could go to Vietnam on my own. Well, I mostly go on my own. So it forced me to look at Vietnam for what I wanted to experience. Just like you were saying, it actually pushes you to discover things for yourself, and you can do it any way you like because you don't have to ask your friends or your family, is that okay? Do they want to do it as well or whatever? So I'm like you. I love traveling with my family and my husband and all the rest of it. But that's a very different experience to traveling as a female and traveling solo. But I never feel odd, or people I don't think look at me strange because I'm on my own. Like you've seen me travel in Vietnam. Do you think I stand out in the crowd, or maybe I do because I'm blonde, but like, do you know, like do people look at you like you're strange because you're traveling on your own? I don't
Actually, sometimes, Carrie, I have maybe in the past, I still remember one of my very first trip. I picked some of those destinations that seems to be more suitable to travel when you have a partner. For example, if you know Dalat, our highland area, right? So the weather there is beautiful, also always chill. You have flowers everywhere, beautiful scenery, and people often picture themselves traveling with a partner. And they say, yeah, you don't want to go to Dalat alone. What you going to do there? I actually book my my hotel for 5 nights. Stay on my own. I mean, I was a solo traveler there. And it was interesting. I mean, at that time, it was 8 years ago. And people ask me that question, are you seriously going to Dalat on your own? I say, well, yes, I don't see anything wrong with that, especially one of my friends was busy. I cannot ask somebody to go with me. So I'm just going to find things on my own. And when I travel to the destination, the thing that fascinated me the most, of course, just like what you say, liberating, right? The word that you use, I feel free. Because nobody stopped me from doing what I want. I eat whatever whenever I want. I go to different places. If I feel tired, I just go to sleep. I don't have to follow anybody's agenda. But the interesting thing that I had along the way was once I was sitting in a cafe on my own, and I saw one American couple. They come approach me and ask me a few questions because they say, well, it's their first time in Vietnam. And they have the feeling like they need to come and talk to me for the reason that they saw me, a female solo traveler in Dalat, sitting on my own. I was like, well, that's interesting. And I asked them how their travel experience so far. And they say, I think Vietnam is a very safe country. However, my family didn't think so. The problem was, yeah, they traveled from the US to Vietnam, and she has a very old grandmother. Before she traveled to Vietnam, she told her grandmother that, grandmom, I'm going to Vietnam, and her grandmother got freaked out because all they was thinking of was the history, the past, the war, and everything else, and they was like, yeah, I wouldn't recommend you to go there. It's very dangerous. People probably gonna hate us, and with all that sort of mindset, right? Prior to the trip, but when she came, she felt, oh my god, like nobody actually asking question whether she's American or any issue when it comes to history and culture, and she feel very welcoming. And the fact that she traveled to Dalat and she saw me there just to prove that Vietnam is very safe for even a solo young female traveler on her own. And they had the confidence to come and speak to me just because of they were so curious as well. And they asked me a lot of questions and we became really good friends afterwards. So I thought, if I was traveling with a partner, I might not get a chance to talk to those interesting people. And that is one of the perks that we could only get when we are solo traveler. We have chance to explore new things and paying attention to other people and things surrounding us.
Yes, I totally agree. I mean, I find myself in situations where I think people see me on my own and they then feel like they can approach me because obviously I'm kind of I'm there on my own. So, I'm not talking to anyone. They're not going to disrupt me or anything like that. So I often find I meet a lot more people. And in particular with the Vietnamese, they also, as you talked about being curious, they're curious to find out about me. So they'll come and ask me questions, or they'll maybe want to practice their English, or they want to know what country I'm from and things like that. So I don't think I would have got to have had as much interaction with people if I hadn't have travelled on my own. And I think if the Vietnamese nature, if like your nature wasn't as friendly and as open, I likewise wouldn't have got the opportunities that I got. But because those two match up really nicely, it is, I always feel lighter and brighter. And, someone quoted me recently and I kind of said, I feel like I get an injection of colour into my life because, there's beautiful coffee houses and tea houses and places to go. So, you can be with amongst people but still be on your own and feel very, very comfortable. Can we talk a little bit about, Camellia, you are a young professional woman and obviously you have a good knowledge of Vietnam. So when you're travelling, do you pick, like you've talked about Dalat, and that's a place I have got yet to feature on my podcast. And I loved Dalat also. Is there particular places that you would say are better for the female traveller as far as enjoyment, safety, things to do over the other? Do you think?
Well, Carrie, I think this question is a little bit complex answer, right? When it comes to experiences, it all depends on what we are seeking for, right? And what suits us, and the other way around. I think it's really depends on what we are looking at here. It's very difficult for me to say which place is better than the others because sometimes it depends on how we like to enjoy life in different ways. Some people would prefer to stay in big cities, for example. So obviously, two of our mega city, Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City, or even some other city like Da Nang, could be perfect for those who want to see a bit of life, seeing a lot of people on the street, a lot of things happening, events as such, right? But we also have much of our the country here, we have a lot of mountains, right? So the mountainous area also beautiful. It's gorgeous landscape, and you get to be very close to the nature. And our coastal line, okay, the beaches are also amazing. And I don't know, it just depends on which part of Vietnam that we want to explore. And from what we say earlier, right, Vietnam is pretty safe. And we know that the level of crime is extremely low in this country. I would say it is very safe, but it also depends on how brave we are as a traveler and a female traveler in particular when we travel to those areas, because other consideration that we need to take in would be on our language ability, if we are able to communicate with the local, because I would say, of course, in big cities is very likely for you to be able to meet somebody who can speak English. But that might not be the same case when you travel to a province or a village.
Correct.
Yeah, even though I say, yeah, it's safe, but then you might not feel safe if you travel somewhere that people don't understand you at all. So with that, we probably need to come with a little bit of preparation. But other than that, I think Vietnam is just so big when it comes into seeking for different experiences. And I just cannot tell which experience is going to be better than the others.
Okay, then, well, I'll share mine, and I'll share them from the experience of, like, I'm a mature woman, so I'm travelling around, and I don't want to be worried about my safety. I don't want that to be part of my holiday. So when I started doing this back in 2016, really on my own, I did an earlier trip in 2007, but I spent a month in 2016, and I decided to pick Hoi An as my base. And there was a couple of reasons that I chose Hoi An, and a couple of reasons I continue to choose Hoi An as a base, as it's got a very country style feel to it. You can walk to most places, or you can get very short taxi rides to the beach or things like that. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of things to experience. You can make lanterns or masks, do cooking classes, go by the river. You can go to Marble Mountain. There's all sorts of things to do from there. But generally, it's quite chilled. It's quite easy. It's an easy place to maneuver. When I first came to Vietnam, and I was struck with Ho Chi Minh City as my open door to Vietnam. It was like, whoa, like I've really got to get my head around this. I mean, over time, I've certainly conditioned myself. And I found Saigon this time much more manageable to get around. I think there's more street signs, there's more traffic lights, more one-way streets. There's some better management of the flow of people around, I think. It still gets, like traffic jams, we all know that, etc. But it is easier to get around. But it's a city you've got to keep your wits about you, because it's so busy, because there's a lot of people. There is more people that speak English there, but like I've heard some stories about people who get their cameras pinched or their phones, or, they leave their handbag down or something, and then it's gone. I mean, that's like any city in the world, to be honest. But I just think for people that are coming to Vietnam for the first time, they are female, they are a solo traveller, I would be recommending that you do a little tiptoe into Saigon for a few nights, because you have to. There's just too much great stuff to do there. But then you might want to go and spend a bit more time in some quieter areas like Hoi An or Hue, or, Da Nang even would be a little bit quieter, etc. And then you can come back and stay in Saigon again on your way home. So that's just from my experience, and that's, basically that's all I can share, because that's what I know, that's what I live. And you're the same with Dalat and, your experiences. You work in a hotel, which is got a tagline called "The Home of the Daring." So I thought, I'm talking to, their sales and marketing director. She's working at a hotel that claims to be the home of the daring in the middle of Saigon Central. She's a female traveller. She's definitely going to be able to talk about the empowerment of travellers, because you meet them also, I would understand, at the hotel, solo travellers. I met a couple when I was there. So, when a woman is coming to Saigon is your main city, do you have any places that you would steer them to enjoy the best of Saigon? I mean, I think the shopping is amazing, but that's because I know some secret spots and I'm putting a tour together about that, secret squirrel. But I don't know. What do you think? Are there some things that a female in Saigon should definitely do? You may see at the beginning of the show notes in the podcast channel that you're listening from some words that say text me a message. It's a great idea, don't get me wrong. I love hearing from you. And whether that's your thoughts on the episodes, some questions, messages of appreciation, I just love the feedback. It's really great. However, I feel it remiss of me to not thank you for them, but to not be able to respond directly to you. So if you have sent me a question, and I've got lots, and you haven't heard from me, there's a really good reason why. I actually don't have the ability in the technology to respond to you. They kind of expect that you would, or I would, answer the questions in the form of a show. And there's just kind of too many, and I just think it's just too personal not to do it that way. So I wanted to alert you to the fact that if you do send me a message through that connection option, I'm not going to be able to respond to you directly. So if you do have a question, and it is time sensitive, or you want to send me any kind of message, can I suggest the following two ways? One, send me an email to whataboutvietnam@gmail.com. That is the email address that I have the most constant access to, and I will aim to get back to you ASAP. Secondly, if you go to the website for the podcast, which is whataboutvietnam.com, if you scroll right to the bottom, there is a chance for you to leave a voice message. Now, in that voice message, I can respond to you equally with a response in voice. So if you want a quick response, that's your next best way. But I just wanted to get this into the show, make you aware of this, as it really is becoming problematic. And I've just got too many, and I can't kind of go naming people and answering each question. That's just a little bit silly. So if you have sent me a text message before and you're waiting on a message back as a response, I'm so sorry. I cannot do that. But if you want to send the question again, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Well, Kerry, I think you just brought in a very interesting topic, and thank you for mentioning our hotel as well, the Fusion Original Saigon Centre, and we do have a tagline called "The Home for the Daring," and I think that is just it's just fascinating to think about it, and the way we see it here in Vietnam as well. It is a country. Depends on the way we look at it, right? Some people actually see looking from our history and the past and saying that we are very conservative into certain things. But the way we see it here as a local, I was like, I think everything is happening in my country, and we don't really have and do not put any limitation into the way we can explore things, learning new culture. And I don't see Vietnam with a lot of subculture as such. For example, when it comes into even in sensitive topic, for example, like religions or the LGBT community or any things that some people might probably think that part of the extreme. In Vietnam, I thought we actually make it very easy for every single group of people to come and explore. That includes solo female traveler, that include the LGBT community, that they don't feel discriminated, for example. And different people from different religions, that you're Christian, Catholic, Buddhism, or any other religion as well. We have something for everyone. So most likely, most people do not have problem when they come and travel to Vietnam. I would say, for example, if you even coming from Islamic country, you're Muslim, and you cannot eat pork. In Vietnam, we actually eat pork every day. Most of the time we do. But it doesn't mean that when they come to Vietnam, they cannot find the right type of food, because we can pick it up really fast. When we know that, yes, the travelers start to come, we start to diversify as well our offering to international tourists. We have halal certificate food, especially in 5-star environment. We know what our international guests would want, and we start to introduce that concept into many of our restaurants here in the city. So this is one of those examples to tell you that yes, you can find anything and any trends that you can find. For example, for female, when we start to care a lot more about wellness, care more about our dietary requirement, how to make sure that our daily consumption going to be in check, because we don't want to gain weight, we just want to look pretty, but the food still have to be delicious. So I think Vietnamese cuisine is just a great choice when it comes to that matter, right? We love our food just for the reason how delicious it is, but also how simple it is when it comes to preparation. And the calorie intake as well is extremely low compared to the rest of our cuisine in the world. So when it comes to that, obviously, if the female travelers coming to my city or any other city in Vietnam, I would highly recommend them. First thing is you probably want to try our cuisine, okay, our food. And I wouldn't hesitate to give you a list of some of our recommended restaurants for you to come and explore. So
okay, we'll have that list. I'll definitely.
We'll have the list. Yes. Okay. So we do that. And as you say, shopping is an interesting experience as well, right? When it comes to shopping, I would say different style. Either we can do traditional way, going to all the shopping mall, all those big one. Actually, our hotel located inside shopping mall, as you already know. But we also have the chance to experience shopping like local in the local markets, surrounding as well, by walking distance, or to go to some fair market when you can actually see people prepare different things, especially women seems to be drawn to all those tailor-made clothing. Go there and get a beautiful outside for yourself that is custom made by your figures and all that sort of thing. So those experiences are the thing that we want to introduce. Last week, there's a very interesting place that I went to. In Vietnamese, we call Quê Một Cục, and to translate in English, it means something like a countryside hair salon. Okay, so
a countryside hair salon.
Yeah, it's something like that. Basically, the ideas for them is this is something belong to the culture. Okay, something happened years ago. It's not anything modern about that. But the way we put it, because sometimes the Vietnamese language is just interesting. We just cannot translate it into English. I hope you know what I mean. But for that, when we came to that place, we heard of the name in Vietnamese, we start laughing, because that is something reminds us of the past. When for example, when something you feel a little bit old-fashioned, and but still give you a little bit feeling of the past and the history and culture, and you kind of enjoying it. So we went to that shop to have hair salon, and they just have two very simple package. One is to wash your hair with a facial treatment, okay, and the although facial treatment, everything is made from natural herbs. So to be sure that you are safe in this environment, whatever we use there, they use there, safe for the environment and safe for your body, and with a traditional way of doing things. And the second package that we have is washing hair with a massage packet for your shoulder because we own office people and we always need that. After having about half an hour of that section, it was recommended. People actually say that please, please, please do not use your phone. Take it away so that you can actually enjoy the section. So in that, when you come to that, I was very tempted to take some pictures of the place because I was impressed. I was super impressed. I couldn't imagine that I can find such place in a city like that in Saigon. But then I was blown away by how beautiful it is. And people say, just relax, close your eyes and enjoy because life is very short. Not to enjoy the moment. So I put my phone away completely and enjoy the whole process. After getting my hair washed done, I was invited to a living room area when they decorate it in a way that reminds you of a Vietnamese traditional family in the French time that we have, the French colonial time. Things that they call in a very Indochine style with all the tiles, furniture. You actually stay there listening to the radio, soft music, drinking Vietnamese tea, and they also have some grocery that you could actually only find when I was a kid, maybe 6 years old. I used to come and find all those things, and they're on display in that area using very interesting language, with the way they communicate. And I feel like, okay, I would love to share this experience to any traveler to Vietnam, or especially the solo traveler who also have the need for relaxation, but also learning also about culture and what Vietnamese was so proud to have.
That sounds wonderful. I'll definitely have to get the name of the place and I'll put it in show notes for everybody and the translation and all that because I'll never be able to say it like you say it. So definitely I'll put that in. And it's little things like that, I think, as a solo traveller, you don't feel guilty about doing because you're not taking your time away from someone else or whatever. You can kind of be a little bit self-indulgent and you can go, no, I think I'm going to have that half an hour or 1 hour treatment or, and spoil yourself. And I think those little gifts to yourself of kindness and just, a little bit of compassionate time. We've been through some hard years. And I think that one of the things that I got from Vietnam in this trip was just a feeling of invigoration. I was allowed to spend some time with some friends, get invigorated by the kind of the upbeat vibe. I always think that Vietnam's got an upbeat vibe. I don't know. I can't explain it any other way, but it's up. And wherever you go, there's kind of that. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just, attract all the upbeat people. I don't know.
No, I agree with you, Carrie. Even a Vietnamese living here in Vietnam.
There's a vibe.
It's a vibe. And you get to challenge.
It's contagious.
And things happening so fast, and it's just new thing coming up your way, and you just one after another. Today you see an event, tomorrow you see something else coming up.
I know.
It's so fast and very dynamic.
Yeah, it is very dynamic. And as I said, like as a female solo traveller, I probably wouldn't travel by myself in Australia. That's kind of a funny thing to say, isn't it? I've gone to visit friends on my own. So I've got friends in Cairns and Melbourne and whatever, and I'll go on my own, but I go straight to them. But just to go and take off like I take off around Vietnam, I would never do that in Australia. I don't know why, but I just wouldn't. And I think people would look at me as if I had two heads if I did, where I don't think people look at me they don't show it anyway. They don't look at me strangely. And I do meet some great people. And the other thing I want to take up with you is about the empowerment of women in Vietnam, Vietnamese women. I often hear people saying, so-and-so is got a business, but the real power behind that business is the wife or the mother or the daughter or the female is the one that is obviously the enterprising one or the energetic one or whatever. But I hear it a lot. Is that something you hear as well, that women are the power behind the things happening kind of thing?
Okay, I think, yes, that is a very interesting topic, and you just brought it in, I think, at the very right moment. There's a few days, actually tomorrow already, is the 20th of October, is our Vietnamese Women's Day. Okay, in Vietnam, we actually have two Women's Day. I don't think any other country would have that. You might have a Mother's Day, some Other's Day, Father's Day, but in here we have two Women's Day. The first one is actually on the 8th of March, called the International Women's Day. I think it was for Vietnam being part of the Soviet Union in the past that we celebrate those days together. So that was one of our big days celebrating international women. And the Vietnamese Women's Day, which is tomorrow, is also founded by the Vietnamese Union here for women to celebrate our work and what we contribute to the country. That just to one of those proof, two of the proof actually, just to see how much Vietnam as a country been moving ourselves to empower women, and we celebrate our women as well. But I think sometimes when I try to explain things in a certain way, I try to look deeper into the history and culture, trying to explain, because I do believe that everything happened for a reason, and it's not happened because since yesterday. It need to be, I think probably it was something that long and for the longest time that we wouldn't know. So I try to find out and trying to understand why the women in Vietnam, like you said, have so much power. And you're right, the mother in the family, she actually controls everything. Yeah. I think if we go back into 50 years, even during the Vietnamese War, we often think about the woman as in the family would be a loving mother, of course, to their children, a loving wife to the husband, but she's also a fighter during the war. And when it comes into the economy, she's also a social worker. So the women in Vietnam are actually wearing so many different hats. And the role is very important. And just imagine one day I come home and my mom stopped cooking. Like, we would ended up having nothing to eat. That is very traditional. The role of the woman in the family is already important. But what happened in the work environment? I work in hospitality industry, but I think it happened to most countries as well, that the majority of workers in the hospitality industry and tourism industry are female. I think there are some unique attributes to that, because women, like us in general, we have the tendency to care for people. We take care of people better. We know how to talk better than men. I hope there's no men listening to us right now, knowing that, we are better than you when it comes to
They'll forgive us.
But they'll
forgive us. Yeah.
I think so. But when it comes to communication, we know how to express our feeling better. So that also helps when it comes to understanding other people, feeling. And for us here, it's about how to deliver customer service better as well, that we need to put ourselves into the shoes of the customer, understand them. But also, once you understand that, you would be able to know how to communicate with them in clear language. I think that is a gift that only women would have. So that would be in general. But when it comes into empowerment in Vietnam, and the only way we would know where we stand would be to compare to other countries. Sometimes I would say, okay, if we just have a quick look when it comes into other bigger culture in Asia, even when it comes to China or Korea or Japan, I actually think in Vietnam we are quite fortunate in a way, because I do feel like the women in Vietnam are a lot more dynamic. Of course, it's my personal opinion, but I look into our history and I was very impressed myself, knowing that in many other countries, you have king in the country, right? Like throughout the history, you have emperor, they're mostly male. But for Vietnam, we have our first female king since year 40. S4-E15. So you travel to Vietnam, you see the road Hai Ba Trung, right? So it's the Trung sister was our first female king. Okay, and they actually we actually still read about them, and we have so many other heroines in Vietnam, like the Child Lady. And throughout the war and history time, we have so many female fighters. They stood up for the country, and we've been looking up to them, and we learn from them. And that actually, I think they become the role model for us to look at, knowing that yes, as a woman, we have our soft features, we have our traditional values that we want to keep, to being feminine, to being lovable people. But when it comes to work and when it comes into protecting the thing that we love, we're also real fighters. And when it comes to that, I just can't help but being so proud of who we are as Vietnamese women, and the opportunity that we have today also to thrive in different aspects of life.
And I think that's the aspect of females that I see in Vietnam as well. I see that strength, and I see when hardship comes, that the female sometimes is quicker to come up with a way to earn some money to feed their family, because as you say, they have that care factor, they have that family, and that is their primary. So I've seen women come up with these business ideas or all of a sudden very quickly be able to earn some money to be able to sell some things at the markets or do something very quickly that will be able to feed their family and give their family support. Where the men are trying to obviously get bigger jobs and things like that, their female partner or their mother or the women in the family seem to rally together and are able to, I don't know, pull magic out of the air almost. You know, you'll find them in the markets, and I'll talk to someone, they'll say, oh, yes, you know, her family's had a very hard time. She now comes and she sells fruit and vegetables that she picks at the farms, blah, blah, blah. Like just that very quick that they will jump into a position of being enterprising and use that strength. The other thing, I don't know whether you've been to in Hanoi, have you been to the Vietnam Women's Museum?
Yes.
Isn't that a stunning place? And that is just floors and floors and floors of, I guess, the history. I think each floor is almost like a chapter of history in Vietnam of women and how they have progressed through history, including, as you say, fighting in the various wars, the French, the American, etc., and seeing them, you know, 1 minute a mother, the next with, you know, a gun, the next with, you know, an allay on, you know, like they can wear many hats, as you say, and the minority groups are sectionalised as well, so that you can see how their lives were so totally and utterly dependent on the land and what the land could provide for their families. So really a great place to visit for everyone in Hanoi would be to spend some time to go to that museum. Definitely recommend it. Is there anything you want to finish off with? Any kind of do's and don'ts for our women who are listening, who are saying, gee, I think I could do this. I could come to Vietnam on my own and do my own thing. Do you want to leave with any passing comments?
Well, Carrie, I think with you being a professional traveler, you've been to Vietnam many times. So I think we trust you so much that knowing that Vietnam is a safe country, and also now you have me here as well, right? I'm so glad to be part of the podcast today. So, you know, you have one more contact. If I could recommend something for all female traveler, I would recommend as well we do research in advance. Or anywhere we travel to in the world, right? We need to do our research, not only about safety is number one. Of course, your safety is always important to us, but reassure that Vietnam is very safe. I'm just going to keep repeating saying that Vietnam is very safe, but it's more onto finding the experiences that are going to be the most suitable for you based on the amount of time that you have in the country, which places that you would like to travel. You want to go to mountainous area or beach or city area as well. And I think one of the greatest tips that I could give would be if you could find a friend in the country, in the host country. For example, since Carrie knows me, she would contact me in advance, share with me the agenda, see if we can meet along the way. And from time to time, I keep telling Carrie, if you have any question at all, if you need any help, even when you are in Hanoi, I'm in Saigon, because I can still help. My friends are everywhere. So there's some certain benefits when you know a local person. So that would be something that you can rely on. Yeah.
And it's kind of one of the reasons why I'm going to be putting some special tours together for 23 that will have people that, you're right, that can kind of give people a little bit more confidence that they can reach out to someone. I've also got a girlfriend in Da Nang who, I'll let her know that I'm coming and she'll say, well, watch out, this week, it's typhoon week or, whatever is coming. So, or make sure you bring a jacket or just little things like that. Or if I want to ask you about something in Saigon, there's a show that's coming up or, we know of a restaurant, would you recommend it for, a family celebration or something like that? I really value that. I think that local insight of someone like yourself or some people that I'm going to have to help, I think does give you just another level of confidence in your travel experience.
Yes. Carrie, you just mentioned, also, sorry, I interrupt you. You just mentioned that your friend reminds you to bring a jacket. That's something I want to bring on as well, because the weather in Vietnam is very interesting. And we say it's not just like another Bangkok or Singapore when it's all year round warm weather. We have very cold winter in northern Vietnam. So before we travel, probably a bit more of research or especially having a friend who tell you if you need to bring a jacket, that would be great, right? Right now, what I'm saying, in Saigon, we still have warm weather. In central Vietnam, it's a little stormy right now with all those, just a season for that. In Hanoi, started to get really cold. Yes. Okay, so bear in mind that
I've been freezing in Hanoi in January. I couldn't believe it. I was literally walking shops to find big puffer jackets. Those ones with the big puff. Like I was just so cold. I couldn't believe it. I thought, what was I thinking? Not bringing a jacket. So it was one of the first podcasts and one of in the trip planning ones in my show. I made sure I clearly identified that. It's not all hot all year round everywhere. It is just not the case. Yeah, Camellia, thank you very much for being on the show. I've loved having you. I knew you'd be brilliant to talk about this subject and just want to say thanks again for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carrie. And I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you for listening. Check out the episode notes for more information.
What about Vietnam?
Don't forget to subscribe, rate and review, and stay tuned for more fun adventures in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?